Finally, my friend, to the
Yes.
storytelling lab.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy that I got the invite. I'm happy that you can tell when I'm happy about something because I like jump on it immediately. So I was like,
You did.
I
That's
saw
what
your
was so
name.
fun.
I'm like, open email, and I don't open emails that much. I saw your name, open email. Oh, let's do it. Boom.
I can't tell you how much that means, and I feel the same way. I was just telling you before we went live. We got introduced, by a mutual friend, which that kind of connection happens all the time. Like, oh, we hit it off, so you should meet so and so. But like as soon as
Yeah.
we hopped on the phone, like the
Yep.
first day, it was the
We were
same
gone.
thing, and I swear I could have talked to you for hours. So that's why I was like, let me get him, because after the new year, it's been about a month since we touched base, and I was like, man, I saw one of your TikToks. I was like, let me hit him up real quick, and
Yeah.
I sent you the link. I don't even think you said yes. I just saw like my Calendly sent me the automated email being like Robbie Cornelius has booked this episode with the Storytelling
It
Lab.
was like 2 seconds after you sent it. I think
I
I
love
just
it, brother.
happened to open up the email. Shouts out to Joe Ingram too for
Big
introducing
time.
us because he's an awesome guy, man. I
He,
love
he
Joe.
he really is. He puts in a lot of work too.
Yeah.
The energy you've already come into this conversation with, I want to pick back up with what we were just talking about before we went live. Talk to me about that, showing up with that passion and that excitement and that energy, because we all know, and a lot of the people that listen to this show struggle with the things that work against us, because that's inevitable, right? And
Yeah.
it comes in large magnitudes at times.
Yeah.
But talk to me real quick, before we start to really learn about your story, about your approach. Like, you woke up today,
Yeah.
what do you say to yourself?
I'm fired up. When I realize when I open my eyes and I realize I'm alive, I'm like, man, this is about to be phenomenal. We're about to kill it today. And then I just jump out of bed. So years ago, I started doing this attitude of gratitude, waking up out of the bed and just being thankful, like, oh man, I'm sleeping on this nice, mattress. Uh when I touch the floor, look at this amazing carpet that my feet are touching right now. And I played this gratitude game, and I think I did it for like 30 days straight, and it's just become a habit now. It's just like an unconscious thing where I'm just happy. I'm genuinely happy to be here.
It's like, that's one of those things it has become a little cliche, and I don't mean that in the negative
Yeah, it
version
has.
of the term. That's a good thing, right? That it's
Yeah.
become more popular. But I think a lot of people, like if I were to play devil's advocate and be the person kind of trying to poke holes in the theory of
Yeah.
gratitude, people don't believe that it works, but there's science behind it that shows it, that mindset shift. And if you do it, if you actually do it, and don't just kind of talk about it,
Yeah.
you feel a tangible, like a real
Yeah.
visceral difference. If you stop, you don't just say like, oh, I'm grateful for today, but like you just said, no, be
Yeah.
specific
Yeah.
and really stop and think about it. Just give yourself that 30 seconds or that minute. You
Yep.
feel the difference. Like I use, my kids a lot, and I got to give this to Gary V, who a lot of entrepreneurs know and look up to,
Yeah. I
and a
like
lot of,
Gary Vee a lot.
and he had said something about kind of really picturing the worst case scenario. With when we're thinking about kids, we all know what that alludes to, what that means.
For
and,
sure.
and it's a more, some people think it's a morbid approach, but when you think about, like, let's say God forbid this could be my last day with my
Yeah.
kid,
That's what I think about.
dude, it changes your mind
It really
immediately. And
does.
if you use a similar approach to, like, hey, if this was my last day, if 5 o'clock p.m. today I
For,
checked out,
for
would I be
sure.
happy with the legacy
For,
that I left
for
today?
sure.
And I'm getting chills right now just thinking about it, because it is very, very true. And I also want to give a shout out to Ryan Holiday, the Daily Stoic. I
Mm.
carry this coin from him that says Memento Mori, which just says, remember, you will die.
Yeah.
And for some people, that's a heavy thing to think about. It's heavy for all of us, but the point of that is to look at that and see this wherever I go, it's on me, to remember that every action that I
But
take, that's going to be the result. And so you ask yourself, if it were today, would you be happy with how you spent your time?
for
And that
sure.
doesn't always mean hyper producing. That could be spending time with those that you love. That could be whatever it is that you're
Yep.
passionate about, that is meaningful to you. But so many of us just go through and don't even ask the question.
Don't even ask the question.
So when I see the work that you do, you're an entrepreneur, and like
Yeah.
most of us entrepreneurs, we're multi potentialites, we're multi passionates, we're involved in a lot of things. So
Yeah.
the first question I want to get into to with you is a question that actually came to me from my family. This is kind of a joke in my family now, my mom and my brother, because I've always been similar, right, all over. And at one point, my brother, who's a chef, very clearly, like, that's what I do.
Yeah.
It was like Christmas, we were having a conversation. He was like, what is it that you do? And my mom just died because she didn't have an answer, and nobody really does. And I didn't really have an answer, to be honest, because I do a
Yeah.
lot of things. So I say
Facts.
that to say, Robbie, what is it that you do in your own words?
This is the best question in the world, because this is a question that, I'll tell you this. One day, so I grew up very humble.
Mhm.
When I say humble, I mean, we were changing school systems every year because we got kicked out of every house every year because we couldn't afford to pay the rent. So we were always moving and going to different school districts. And so I knew I didn't want my kids to come up like that. So there was this point where I didn't have anything. I didn't have money. I didn't have money enough to buy like a cheeseburger, right?
Mhm.
So long story short, all of a sudden our life started to change for the better. And one day I'm with my two boys. The youngest one was probably 6 at the time. And he says, Dad, what do you do? And I said, I build businesses on the internet. I own multiple companies online. And this was many years ago. It wasn't really that popular. And he says, no, but like, where is your business? And I said, it's like in your phone and in the computers. And he was like, take me to it. Right. And so I always use that as like this reminder of how I need to get clear about what it is that I do. So when people ask me, they'll understand. And so there's multiple parts of Robbie. So there's the entrepreneur side that does own multiple companies online, like Southern Web Service, which is a web development and marketing agency, Overstock Domain, which is like a GoDaddy, and then my newest edition, which is Web Asset Group, teaching people how to master their minds and make money online. That's what my personal brand is built off of, helping people understand that they have more control over the quality of their life experience than they previously believed they do. So my whole thing now to life, my tagline to my whole life, is I help you master your mind and make money online. Those are my two things.
I love that. And it's very simple. It's easy to remember, but I love the clarity that you have on it. This is something that a lot of people, when they're trying to establish their personal brand, struggle with.
Yeah.
And I love that you landed on 2, because that's kind of, I help people in a similar way. And I think we might fight for the same kind of people. And I think it is because we both come from, southern states,
Yes.
grew up in similar ways and are fighting for the same people, right? For me, I've
Yes.
always felt like I fight for underdogs, for people who are telling themselves a story that might not be true.
100%. 100%.
So I love that. But you said these 2 things. Say it again for me, the 2 things that you do.
I help people master their minds and make money online.
That's
And I got to give a shout out. My best friend, Catherine Troyer, Feng Shui Kate. She helped me get clear about that, because I'm the guy that people always come to about clarity for their brands and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
I was missing the mark on my own brand. And I asked her one day, when you think of me and my brand, what do you think about? Because I could go down any level. I can talk about meditation. I can talk about,
right.
And she told me that, she says, when I think of you, I think that you are a mental stylist. Ooh. That helps people discover their passionate lifestyle. I was like, whoa, I love that. That's it. Dope. And I'm like, I need to coin it. So that's how I used to rap, so I needed to make it rhyme, right? Master your mind, make money online. So that's how I came up with that.
Well, the way I explain it to people is, it's like because people are often lost in the sauce, and especially when you have a lot of interest, right?
Yes.
Because you do like meditation, and
yes.
I'm getting ahead of myself. I like the 2 because the way the metaphor that I use is like, these are the 2 pillars,
yes,
right? The 2 columns upon which your personal brand sits atop, right? Yes. So like, you have to have those 2 things, and what happens is either people don't know what those things are, so they're not clear pillars, right? Or they have way too many of them, and they're not like structured, so they're just kind of all over the place.
Yep.
Then once you establish what those core pillars are, you can bring in the other things that make you you, that make you interesting. But if you don't have that clarity, so that's what's so exciting to me to talk to you about, and especially for my listeners, because you do such a good job of it. Because you do make TikToks about meditation,
Yeah.
but within that same realm that
And
you've established.
yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So
That was
that's
my thing. I'm like, I don't want to be seen as like all over the place, but I do. This is my lifestyle, right? I make money online. I master my mind, and man, it was just a perfect match.
yeah, and then you also you don't you always hear about niching down, right? Finding
Yeah.
your niche audience, but it's like what's cool about when you niche down like that, understanding what you do differently than anyone else,
Yes.
then it actually goes back up because the way you put it, your two pillars, doesn't mean it's only this type of person. Lots of people
Exactly.
are going to, I mean, people all over the place are going to want to master their mind, whatever their goals are, their
One
passions are,
hundred percent.
and also want to make money online.
100%. Like the pandemic taught us that, right?
Big
We
time.
needed to do both during the pandemic when we
Yeah.
were, locked in our homes. People were. I lost my hair before the pandemic. FYI,
as,
it was
as did
already
I, my
gone.
friend.
So we needed to learn how to do that. And so yeah, people are more complex than some marketers want to believe they are, like with the whole niching down thing. And I think sometimes it's okay to like super focus and niche down. But for me, I just need to be able to have a message that can be picked up by the right person at the right time.
Definitely. There's a paradigm shift, a cultural shift happening now. The pandemic might have expedited it,
Mm,
where we're not building everything around this specialist mentality anymore. I had a guest on, it was like episode 122, a few episodes back, Jake McNeil, who you should follow him on TikTok. He
Jake
speaks,
McNeil.
yeah, he
Okay.
speaks to multi-potentialites, and it's about being a generalist and kind of exactly what we're just talking about right now.
Yeah.
His background was in the music industry for like 2 or 3 decades, and he helped musicians find basically what I call their unique intersections, because they all had different passions too. And all
Yeah.
the greats made some combination of those passions instead of what we've been doing basically since the Industrial Revolution, which is like, he talked about a cobbler. Back in the day, building a shoe would build the whole shoe. But now you just have the person who builds the sole in an assembly line. You have the people who do the strings, and it's all a separate process because that was straight up like factory working style.
Yeah,
We don't live
exactly.
in that world anymore. We don't live
No,
in
we
that
don't.
economy anymore. But we are
No.
still so rigid, and most of the world still wants us to, as you said,
Yeah.
wedge into this one little box.
100%. I get that all the time on so many different levels, especially online. Um, a lot of people like to tell me how I should think and feel as a black person, and I'm
Right.
like, no, I'm an individual. Let's start there, and then we can talk. But so yeah, I've always been like this philosophical rebel where I didn't want people telling me what to do. I didn't want people telling me what to think. I didn't
I
want
feel
people
it.
telling me who to be. I wanted to be myself. So, when I thought about your podcast, the storytelling lab, I'm like, when Joe Ingram told me about you, I went and checked you out on TikTok, and I'm like, this is what it's about.
Yeah. The
This is
whole
phenomenal.
the whole point.
I just noticed something. It looks like this is my Iron Man's
What?
slung.
We're live, Robbie. We are live right
Like, whoa.
Oh my god. So the whole point of us understanding how to use stories and how to and why to share our stories is this is how we connect as humans. This is why I tell people
Yes.
it's not a marketing tool. I mean, it's kind
Yes.
of a marketing buzzword right now, but it's about connecting as people, doing what we want to do with those connections, but the way we do that is through communication.
Yes.
So, and when we do that, we can help show others our path. This is why I wanted you on so much, because people can listen to you and it can help guide them on their path.
For sure.
So I've been talking a lot lately, and I had an episode, the last episode we came out with was all about mentors. And in this story, in any classic story, there's the point where a mentor or a guru or a guide comes along and helps the hero along their journey. And often that mentor sacrifices himself. You see that a lot, like Obi-Wan died in Star Wars so that Luke could become the Jedi.
100%.
So my question is to you, just because I've been so interested in this concept lately, like, who were some of along your journey? You've kind of told us the beginning of where you started from these humble beginnings.
Yeah.
Who are some of the people, or even just one person, that really helped take you to that next level by opening their story up to you?
In the physical, so I have multiple mentors. I had to have philosophical mentors in the beginning, like Bob Proctor and things of that nature. Ralph Waldo Emerson, Dr. Joe Vitale, Dr. Joe Dispenza, people like that I didn't have access to in my physical reality. Of course, those people played a tremendous role in my life. But there's one person in my physical life in the beginning that was I perceived him to be like my best friend at the time, but he ended up becoming more like a mentor, and that's a guy named Bobby D. When I met him, he basically gave me the space to be my real self.
Oh, that's huge.
And he didn't treat me like I was different than him because we had different skin colors. He taught me that it was okay to be my real weird self, and that it was okay to think outside the box, and that it was okay for me to just be me, to be free. And he was already a multimillionaire when I met him. We met through mutual friends. We connected instantly. He came to pick me up from a place that I was staying at the time, because we were supposed to go out. And immediately when I got in his vehicle, we connected immediately, just started talking. Like 2 days later, I had the key to his house.
Dang.
And he says to me, "I'm going to the Bahamas. Will you watch the house for me?" And I'm like, this is weird, but yeah. So when he went to the Bahamas, my sole purpose was to make the house look better than it did when he left. So when he came back from the Bahamas, the house was clean from head to toe. I think I probably even mowed the lawn for him. And because I looked around him and I seen that he had a lot of people around him, but he didn't have any really good friends. It just was a bunch of people that I thought was using him. So I wanted to be a good friend to him because I just loved his brain. Like, I fall in love with people's brains. I know that's a weird thing, but
I get it.
I loved his brain. He thought differently than anybody else I had ever met up until that point. He reminded me so much of who I would have been if I had the courage to be my real self. And so I said that I was just going to focus on being his best friend and, add value to his life. I never asked him for a dime. And in return, he was so grateful of my friendship that I just ended up hanging around him all the time. And I just ended up learning how to become a millionaire just by shadowing him. I was around him all the time. And it got to the point where he even asked me to run his entire company. It took me from, just a guy that had nothing to saying, first of all, I want you to market for the company because you're excellent on the internet. And then once I did a great job at marketing the company, he asked me to help him run the whole company. And that's what I did. So I give him a lot of credit. I don't talk to him much today. He's, everybody's off doing their own thing.
Sure.
But he is definitely, if I look back, if I wouldn't have met him, I don't know where I would be. Definitely. So Bobby D, if you listen to this, you're the man.
Love it, Bobby D.
Bobby D. You kind of look like Bobby D, by the way.
Must be a handsome fella.
Yeah, man. I mean, you guys look
charming.
There you go. Yeah.
My brain is also awesome. No, I appreciate you sharing that story. It touched me because often when we get caught up in our passions, our pursuits, our ambitions, we
Yes.
neglect those relationships. And I mean, I'll bring this into the frame. This is, I don't have it up yet. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Ooh.
which number 3 after like your physiological needs, like, you know, to live. Let me move this the right way. And your
Yeah.
safety needs comes love and belonging, your connections, your relationships. So I ain't the first person to suggest that.
Yeah. Yeah. Relationships are very, very
Yeah.
powerful. I've become very intentional about my relationships these days.
Yes, 100%.
Very intentional. Like
100%.
I cut off a lot of people, places, and things that I felt like wasn't serving the new version of myself.
That's a big moment when you have that realization, and it's not easy because you
Nah.
love those people,
Yeah. For
right?
sure.
Especially if they're part of your story when you were younger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in your formative years, like that's a big thing, and I've had that experience in my life too. And then when there's a kind of new hurdle is not the right word, but when you kind of go public and start putting yourself out there, some of them find you and they come back in some capacity and they want to be supportive, but there's a potential pull back, you know,
Down.
to that.
Yeah.
And
you played a certain character you played a certain character when you were
dude, that 100%. And I'll have people that come back to me and they'll say something like a joke or a one-liner, expecting a reaction from me, and it was like something I had said when I was like 19 that I used to say all the time and get a laugh, and I'm like, I don't even know what they're referring to, and then maybe it will take me a while and I remember it vaguely, but like they'll come back and say like or like something right, and I'm like, what? And it's because it's the joke that I used to tell all the time to them when I was 18 and 19, and I'm like, oh bro, that was decades ago.
That's not even me anymore.
Not even me, but also just like, are you still there?
That's what I'm saying.
I mean,
That's what I'm saying. I have
respectfully.
people respectfully, right? It's like when I go back home sometimes, and which I try not to see too many people when I'm there. But sometimes I run into people and they're talking about things that I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
You can't even relate. And
yeah.
Like on the flip side of that, I still fight for those people. And that's why I try to create the work that I try to create to hit those people, because those people don't just exist in my hometown. They're all over the place.
They're all over the place.
And
absolutely.
So this is why I've bonded with you very quickly, because I think our missions are very similar for those who try to help. But you have to be careful. I don't want to make it sound like they are drowning, but some of them might be. But it's that same thing where it's just like, if you are getting too close to the victim, you will get pulled down too. And
it's
instead of, if you separate yourself and throw the lifeline, that's a lot safer for everybody than like, I'm just going to go pick you up and carry you to the shore.
I try to tell rappers that, I used to be a rapper, and I know the trap that the trap can trap people in. Because
sorry, go ahead.
Now I was going to say, because a lot of rappers get caught up in wanting to support their community, but they get so close to it that they get sucked back in, and then somebody that's not doing as well as they are sees them there all the time, and they get jealous. And we see that story happening all over and over again. And so
sorry to interrupt. I literally just saw a video yesterday of 50 talking about Lloyd Banks, and was like,
I love 50, man.
He's one of those that says this thing. Jay-Z, there's lots of other rappers that say similar things about where they come from, the people that they come from. But he was talking about Lloyd Banks in this interview, and how when Instagram was coming up, he was telling Lloyd like, yo, you got to get on it. He's like, you're kind of he said, you're kind of a little weird socially, so this is a way that you can just put a punchline on a picture and like grow your audience. And Lloyd Banks was like, nah, man, that's just corny.
Yeah.
And 50, you saw his eyes, because he wasn't like mad at him, but he was like disappointed. And when he was retelling the story, he was like, and that's when I kind of knew I just had to like leave him,
cut him off, right? Yeah,
because like he wouldn't even try. He's talking about it's corny, and 50, who's always been a visionary, was like, trust me, try, this is going to help you. And he's like, nah. And it's like, okay,
man,
I love you, brother, but
I gotta go. I'm one of these people where if I know something that can help you, if I've tried something that helped me, I have to tell you. That's just me. Like, if you're my friend, I have to tell you. So 2014 or 15, I started making some really good money. I was just selling products on Amazon back then. And the first thing I did when I really started getting some really good results, I picked up the phone and I called every single person that I was either friends with or that was like close family. And I told them exactly what to do if they wanted to change their life financially. I even had a free freaking webinar at my friend's mansion, and I invited all my family and friends out there, and I'm like, listen, it's free. It's not even going to cost you anything. I'm not even telling you. I'm not even trying to get you to sign up for anything. I just want everybody to be successful because this has changed my life. I literally just went from not having a vehicle to now I just purchased my first BMW. I'm making X amount of dollars a month, and I just want to share it with you guys. So I had like maybe 8 friends out of all the people I knew back then, which were a lot of people. 8 friends showed up, and I basically just pulled up a screen and showed them the entire formula. I'm like, here, if you do this, 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 and this, you won't have to work for anybody anymore. This was 2014, 15, maybe. And out of all the people that I told, the guy that we were in his mansion, he listened, he did it.
Yeah.
He did it. He did it, and he became ultra successful with it. But everybody else that I told, I followed up with them later on. And hey, did you try it? I tried it one time. It didn't really work, and or we did this and it didn't really go. And that's when I knew I had to. Unfortunately, I had to cut ties with those people because I didn't want that mentality to sit on me anymore. But I always had a lifeline out there. If they ever called, I would answer the phone. I would give them advice. But if you're not moving forward, I just can't be around anybody that's like not evolving
Yeah.
in my mind. You know, in my mind, if I think you can do way better than you're doing and you just won't try, or you tried once and failed and you gave up, I just don't have. I have empathy for you, but I don't have sympathy for you
Mm-hmm.
because you
Well
gave
said.
up.
Well said.
You didn't have to give up.
Mm-mm. Now, at some point, you started, talking about the 50 and Lloyd Banks story made me realize that at some point, it may have been going on then in 14 and 15, but you really started to take the content creation part of your business more seriously.
Yes.
Talk to me about like when that moment happened, when that began, when you're like, you know what, if I go all in on this, because your output is phenomenal, and you show people these clear roadmaps, just like that webinar that you talked about. I mean, you give them the thing. I love
Just
what
give
you
it to
do, because it's not like vague and up here in theory. It's like, yo, this is how I did it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you put
100%.
it out there. So when did that content creation part of your journey start?
2011, had a spiritual awakening, walked away from rap and got the support. Bobby D had given me some money to invest in my rap career at the time. And I called him like a couple days later, like, man, I'm just not feeling the rap stuff. It's not me anymore. Like I'm a totally different person. And so I had these spiritual awakenings through meditation. I would focus on like forgiveness. I had a lot of trauma I needed to heal from my father in the past. And one day I'm sitting in meditation and I'm just, I got my eyes closed and I'm repeating, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. Not to anyone specifically, but to the emotions that I feel. And as I'm focusing on these emotions, all of a sudden my father's face comes up. Now, my father died when I was 16 on his birthday. And the last words to my father were not pleasant words because we were at odds with each other. So from 16 to 27, I still held a grudge against my father. I didn't really know that it was still affecting me until I started meditating. And I just focused on these emotions and I just kept repeating, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. Well, all of a sudden, my father's face comes up in my mind. And I just start focusing on my father's face. I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. Then all of a sudden, just bam, the weight of the world just felt like it lifted off my shoulder. I started crying like uncontrollably, but laughing at the same time. It was the weirdest thing ever. So I had this big spiritual aha moment about emotions and the power of our thoughts and things of that nature. I called my mom, who was abused by my father for a very long time. I said, Mom, you have to forgive Dad. You have to forgive him. Like he's dead. Like we have to. She's like, where's this coming from? I'm like, listen, you have to forgive him because you're gonna set yourself free. When I hung up the phone with her, I downloaded this podcast called Spreaker, Spreaker at the time. And I just held my phone in my hand and started speaking into the microphone. And I said I was going to document all of my insights and my realizations and just make them publicly available so that if there's anybody else out there like me that has some of these same thoughts, they'll know that they're not alone. Because right now I feel alone. I feel like I've had these big spiritual awakenings and I have really nobody to share it with that can relate. And so I just started recording this podcast and putting out there. I think at the time the podcast was called In Soul Radio. And I never stopped. I made an agreement with life. I call it my contract or my renegotiation with life. I made a new agreement with life that if my life changed for the better forever from that point on, I would live every single day saying something to someone that I believed could improve the quality of their life experience. And that's where the content comes from. So it started off as like nobody was listening to the podcast. And then we got 5 listens. And then the next part, the next episode, 10 listens. And then fast forward, that was way back 2011. Fast forward till 2019, a friend of mine, we were just talking about TikTok, and he walked into the office one day. We were doing a podcast. He said, "Hey, did you ever do anything with TikTok?" And I said, "I have the app, but I haven't I haven't uploaded to it." And he says, "Well, I went viral yesterday." And I was like, "What do you mean by viral?" And he says, I posted a video last night and it's got 50,000 views or something like that. And I'm like, what? Let me see the video. And it was a basic video of him just talking about, he had just recently gone through a divorce and he was just talking about being single again. When I saw that video have that many views on it, I'm like, I'm about to get on here and say something or do something. So the first thing I did was I danced because when you download TikTok, that's all you did was you saw dances. So
musically.
yeah. So and I can't dance. That's the bad thing about this, Rain. I don't know how to dance. And so my kids are looking at me like, you're about to make a fool of yourself right now. And I'm like, well, we're gonna see. So I just danced and played around. And then I thought, I'm like, why am I doing that when I could just do the same thing that I always do, which is try to inspire people and show people how to make some money. So what I did, this is life changing. So my first TikTok account, I deleted all the dancing videos and I recorded a video on how to resell domain names. And I just had the video up. I'm like, here's how you resell a domain name. You go to a platform like overstockdomain.com. And I just said overstockdomain.com because I own the company. But you could have went to GoDaddy. But I said you go to overstockdomain.com. You search for a high searched domain name. And then you go to you see how many searches it's getting. You go to afternick.com, which is owned by GoDaddy, and you list that domain name for sale and you park it while it's selling. And when it's parked, it's going to Afternick is going to put ads on that domain name. And every time somebody clicks on one of those ads, you're going to get paid. And so I just basically just show people how to take a simple concept like buy a domain name, resell it. And I logged into our Overstock domain account probably 24 hours later. And our sales did like this. And I'm like, what the heck just happened? I go on TikTok and the video had gone viral. And because I mentioned my company in the video, everybody went there to buy the domain name versus going to GoDaddy to buy it or any other platform. And so which we are a GoDaddy reseller. So within like 2 or 3 days, we get an email from GoDaddy like, hey, we need to jump on a call because you just became one of the top 25 GoDaddy resellers in the world in like a couple days. And they asked me how I did it. And I had to get this whole presentation on like, I just got on TikTok and recorded a video. So from that point, I'm like, oh, I'm going to build something on my personal brand. And that's when I created the Robbie Cornelius page and just started expressing myself. And the rest is history.
I
It's
mean,
a long
that's
journey.
no, but it sums up everything about what we talk about here on the show. About sharing your story and just being open like that, but tying it with a call to action. And while
Yeah.
simple and not forceful,
Yes.
you saying, "Here's what you do. You go to bed." That's the call to action for that video, and they all took it,
They
right?
all took it.
And you weren't selling. And this is what I talk to people all the time. You just told a story.
That's it.
That were helping them. They could have done their own research and gone to other places,
Yeah.
but you didn't say.
Go by here.
It wasn't a commercial, is the point, right?
Exactly.
And
commercials
that's why
are
it
not
works.
working today.
No,
as they used to.
And that's why it works. One of my friends in the storytelling space is like, selling is pushy and storytelling pulls them in, right? You told a story about, a success that you've had and this is the path that you took and that was it and they followed it. So that's just perfect. Now, I think a lot of a very common limiting belief people have when it comes to creating and telling their stories on social media is, and it might not even be a limiting belief, it's a real hurdle to get over, is we know, most people know, consistency is really what's best for the algorithm, not necessarily frequency. A little bit of that, but I think now most people are understanding it's consistency. However, that's still challenging when people have, especially if they're solopreneurs, when they have so many other things to do. I think that's something that you do very well. So let's get tactical really quickly.
Yes.
What is your approach day to day to kind of keep that momentum and keep that consistency going?
So if you look at specifically on TikTok, if you look at the average TikTok expert, they're going to talk about, the opening hooks and the making your videos choppy and having the trending sounds and, slicing and editing.
Best practices, they say.
Yeah. The best practices, the right hashtags.
Yeah.
For me, I'm not built like that. And for me, I'm just all about documentation. So there's two steps to my content creation. If I'm at my desk and I'm working online or, talking to my team, or if I'm in a Zoom meeting and I have a thought or a realization, I just hit record on my camera real quick and it saves to my computer. So I have a whole drive of nothing but short form videos that I just like sporadically record throughout the day. And by the end of the day, and without even really thinking about it, like, oh, that was a thought. Did you know that such and such happened and I just record the video, saves to the computer. And then I have this other software called repurpose.io. I take the content from my drive, drag it over from my computer, and I drag it over to my Google Drive, which is tied into my repurpose.io software, and it sends it to all the other social media platforms. So just a simple 2-3 step process. And then if I'm out and about, I got this baby right here, which is the Insta360 the Insta360 X3. This is my documentation camera.
Why do you use that one?
Because have you ever seen the videos when I'm riding in one of the cars or something like that?
Yeah, actually I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the camera that I'm using when I'm in the car. So I don't have to worry about touching it. Because it captures everything all around me, 360. And I can go back in later on and re-edit the video in 2 seconds. Also, I love hiking. I hike almost every day. And one day I was hiking, I had my phone with me, and my son looks at me and he says, "Dad, are you actually going to be here with us this time, or are you going to be in your phone?" And that bothered me because I wanted to be present. So I'm like, I got to find a solution. And one day on Instagram, this ad ran for Insta360. And I said, this could be a solution. This camera, I can be out with my kids. This camera keeps me in the present moment. I hit record. I don't even think about it anymore. It's just with me, recording everything. So I don't have to worry about getting the right frame.
Yeah, where do you hold it? How do you hold it, rather?
Well, it's not with me. So it comes with what they call an invisible selfie stick. It's just a selfie stick. And the software in the camera edits the selfie stick out of the frame so it looks like you got a drone following you everywhere.
And you're just walking with the stick in your hand.
I'm walking with the stick in my hand.
But you're not having to look at it, touch it, and disengage.
At all. I use the stick as a walking stick. And so it's that natural. Like it's just in my hand as like a walking stick, and it's just recording.
And at the top, like where the handle is where the camera is.
Exactly.
And it goes that long, like you can hit the ground.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My God, you're blowing my mind.
And I can, if I want to get different angles, I just hold the stick out to the side this way while I'm
and that doesn't create the same issue for your kids.
No. Because I'm not even paying it. They don't even know it's going half of the time. Because I'm so in the moment. Like if I have my phone, let's just imagine if this remote was my phone, then I would be like, in my phone trying to make sure, trying to get the right image. Bro,
and let me hop in right here if you don't mind, Robbie. Yeah. I want everybody listening and watching in the future to understand that what just happened right now is exactly what we talk about here on the Storytelling Lab. First of all, I'm sold because I and many others like us have the same issue. How many times have I had a conversation with my wife about being present or whatever? However, I'm also very conscious because of what I do for a living of documentation of the things that I do. I'm building a new startup right now. We're trying to document everything. Sometimes life lessons and these gems pop into your head when you're on the hike or whatever.
Exactly.
So you, again, just like with the website, the first TikTok that went viral, you just told me a story about it. You didn't sell it. You didn't even suggest I go buy it.
Exactly.
But I'm all in because you're describing all these pain points that I also experience. You're showing me in the story organically the solutions to those pain points.
That's it.
I can't resist. Like I'm a message you after this and be like, send me that link. Send me that link right now. My marriage depends on it.
Same.
No, but I just wanted to pause and say, because and maybe you're clever enough where you might have done that intentionally, but I think that you were just being organic, and I just had to point out that this is what just happened. Is what I've talked about for 123 or 4 or 5 episodes now of this show, is how to communicate and connect with people, and it's through that. And I will also say, and then I'll shut up, what you just did is how we did it since the beginning of humanity. If I bumped into you, I tell this in my speeches a lot. If you and I bumped into each other 10,000 years ago in the middle of the woods, right? We're both cavemen. And first of all, we had to figure out if we were going to, hurt each other or not. But if you were like, yo, man, I just went down there to the stream. There's salmon swimming all over the place, right? I mean, and I'm starving because it's been 2 or 3 days since I've eaten. Then I believe you. I trust you. I'm going to go do that. That's how we communicated, right?
Absolutely.
We told stories to each other. And then it was for survival. For now, it's a different type of survival.
That's
achieving our dreams, right? And our aspirations. But that was exactly it. So I just had to make sure the people heard that again.
It's our hands down. Like everybody people, this is when I knew I was on to something. When we went hiking one day and I remembered the entire trip. I remembered everything. I could even tell you the color of the leaves and the smell that was in the air and the weird little gesture my son made when he thought a snake was on the ground that happened to be like this long earth. Like I remember all of that. And I'm like, man, we've been on hundreds of hikes and I haven't remembered any of that in the beginning.
Definitely.
Like, unless I went back and looked at the footage, So this camera takes me out of my screen and puts me back into my present reality. It's phenomenal.
I'm going to give you a tip that came from looking up the episode 121, so also just a few ago, with a competitive storyteller named Matthew Dix. He's one of the national champions in storytelling.
Okay.
And he has this exercise that he calls homework for life, and I do it every day. And it's simply one at a minimum, but there's no limit to how many you can write. One just small story from your day. At the end of the day, just put the date as an Excel spreadsheet. You put the date on one column and the story from on the other one. And it's not like journaling necessarily or like a gratitude journal. You're talking about what you're grateful for. It's just a beginning, middle, and end, something that happened. It could be, whatever. I had a call with Robbie today. He booked it immediately. I had him on the show. It was awesome. Whatever the story might be. Now, the thing on the surface that he sells that it helps you do is become better at recognizing opportunities for stories
That's
to
right.
tell them, right? So you're working that muscle of storytelling. So one of them out of last week might be, when we're in a conversation, might be good to drop in the storytelling lab, or when you're in an elevator pitch or whatever. But the real value of the practice is what you just said, which is remembering these little small, seemingly insignificant moments that actually
Mm-hmm.
have power in your day that you would have otherwise 100% have forgotten. And so it's
100%.
called homework for life, and not recognize the opportunity to tell stories, because that's the real value. Is like, and I do it and I see it, so I can look back April 17th. Oh, I remember when my daughter did that silly little thing
Yeah,
sliding across the floor that I laughed so hard about, but I would have
absolutely.
forgotten. So I wanted to bring attention to that too, because this is your way of doing that, and it's so important for us to remember those little stories. We get caught up in the big story so often, but it's the little ones that make us who we are.
Absolute scene by scene is how a movie is put together.
You said it, brother. You
They don't
said
just shoot the whole thing. I used to think that way, but
it.
like they just shoot the whole thing. But no, they just, in this scene we're doing this, in this scene we're doing this.
Now, real quick, for just a little bit of clarification, you said the first way besides the camera that we've been talking about the past 5 minutes, you said if you just have a thought when you're working, you record
Yeah,
it and it goes into your computer. Is that like on your webcam, or is that on your phone?
on the webcam.
On the
Yeah,
webcam.
because
Got it.
so it'll save directly to the computer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Got it.
And so from there, I just either leave it there or drag it over to like Google Drive that's attached to repurpose.io, and that software sends it to all the social medias.
I think that's huge. And also, you weren't the only one, but I think it was after we talked about it, maybe on TikTok. I also just signed up for repurpose.io and have been using it since January. So I appreciate that
Yes,
as well.
awesome, awesome.
So we've got just a few minutes left. Probably final question. So where are you at now? Like, what are you working on? What are your hopes, for this year and even beyond? But I know that you're constantly building and growing, as we've talked about. Evolving was the word that you
Yes.
used. So what's the next stage of evolution for Robbie?
So I'm in the. That's a great question, because I'm in the new phase of Robbie. This. You're watching the emergence of new Robbie.
I love to
Uh,
hear it.
100% better than 2022 Robbie, and that guy was pretty awesome as well. But I'm
I
doing
thought
new
so.
things that I've never done before. I was telling you earlier, I just got through filming a couple of commercials. One was with Hall of Famer Jerome Bettis for his new company. Doing some more filming for commercials. So it's just like I'm working out and people are calling me. It's just the craziest thing. And I'm building a web asset group, which is my online community where I just show people the ropes of, here's how you master your mind, here's how you make money online. So I'm growing that exponentially and just taking my personal brand to a whole nother level.
It
That's my intentions for 2023.
is Web Asset Group like subscription based, like monthly community, or what does that actually look like?
You can access the community and consume all of the content for free.
Oh,
And so there are tiers to it. Like
sure.
the only thing that I charge people for is when I have to show up in real person,
Yeah.
because that's taken away from my businesses, it's taken away from my family. So we do have a group coaching program every Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, a mastermind group every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then I do a little one-on-one coaching. Other than that, everything on the platform is free. We got entire courses on there for free. Like we have a course on there for Launch Card that shows you how to build your own e-commerce platform from beginning to end. And I recorded it myself. So I'm literally sitting there on the camera like, hey, do this, step one. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to do this. So I'm passionate about it. It's just me documenting what I'm already doing. Case in point, for anybody that has a hard time creating content, I'm on my computer anyway. So what I'll do is, I had this thought one day. I'm like, hold up, I'm already on my computer. Why don't I just hit my screen record and just kind of talk to the microphone and just illustrate what I'm doing? And then that's my content.
And people love that content
They
too, because
love
it's
it.
actionable, right? It's not just
Yes.
again, like you're up here this high level theory. It's like, no, boots on the ground tactics. Like, this is what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And people love it. I get a lot of messages about that. Like, man, thank you for that video. Or they can message me there. So it's our own we have our own social community. It's like a Facebook, but just for people that want to learn to master their minds and make money online.
Okay, so my marching orders, folks, are I got to figure out the this camera and the web asset group. What else am I supposed to get after this conversation, Robbie? Because I'm taking
uh
notes over here too, folks.
Documentation, like are you familiar? I forget his name, but there's a food critic that just started going viral on TikTok
Oh, the black dude with I
with
think
the
he has no
dreads.
dreads. Keith. He just came to
Keith.
North Carolina. I
He's
saw him posting about North Carolina this week.
so
He's amazing.
he's amazing, and everyone should look to him to see how simple content creation can be. He's sitting there in his daughter's high chair, I
Well,
think.
that's the best part when he leaves and it's the Paw Patrol chair.
Exactly. Like you don't have to have the perfect camera, you don't have to have the perfect microphone. You don't have to have, all you need is, like you say all the time, a great compassionate story
Mm-hmm.
that moves.
Mm-hmm.
You just put your real authentic self out there.
Let me
And that's
hop in with the authentic self there, because one of the things he made a video about this recently. He talks very like, this week I went to Waffle House. I spent $37. Let's rate it 1 through 10, right? It's kind of like socially awkward a little bit.
yeah.
But he wrote about that because so many people commented on it. Like he kind of talks a little bit weird. And he made a
Yeah.
video about it and says, I speak like that because I have to speak very like slowly because I have social anxiety. And what
Yeah.
I help people with a lot is this concept of flipping the script on those like limiting beliefs. How many people do you think are scared to put themselves out on camera because they have social anxiety and they don't feel comfortable?
Exactly.
So one, he leans into that and just says, I'm gonna do it like me, even though it sounds like nobody else in the world. And then guess what
100%.
happens? It sounds like nobody else in the world. So
Nobody
Keith
else.
has a brand now that you can't hear that voice without knowing exactly who it is.
Exactly.
Right? And it was one of those things that would traditionally have been considered a flaw, right?
Yep.
Like you talk weird, you can't be on camera. That's what happened
Exactly.
when we had these gatekeepers
Yep.
saying like,
No more
we're
gatekeepers.
right now, not only can you do it despite those flaws, but if you lean into them the right way, they can become, your superpower.
100%.
Such a good example of that. And there's
100%.
countless versions of that. But I'm so glad you dropped him because he's incredible. And the lives that he is changing is just like, it's so profound. I love that dude. Shout out to Keith for sure.
Look at Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is kind of socially awkward, right? But
Yeah, totally.
he leans into it. And that's what it's about with me. I tell, like, people told me in the beginning, don't tell anybody you dropped out in the 9th grade. I'm like, I'm gonna lean into that because that's what makes me me.
Right. And dude, we could talk for so long. There are other people that have dropped out early that are telling themselves that they can't do it.
Yeah.
Not only is it okay for you to share that story, you should share that story.
You should share it.
If I drop out, I'm telling myself, and everybody else is probably telling me that I ain't never gonna be right.
Nothing.
And then I see you like, wait, he did it, and he's telling me how he did it. Maybe I
Yes.
might want to walk behind him.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is there are people that are going to drop out of school, or there are people that are going to have social anxiety.
Yeah.
There are people that are going to be born black or born tall or born short. Like, we can't help that. But what we can do is we can lean into what we have and work with it, and just work with the funny thing happens when you accept your perceived flaw, the world does. Isn't that weird?
Dude, yes. Beautiful. I mean, and it's so
Craziest thing. Look at Fetty. You know who Fetty Wap is?
Yeah, absolutely.
He has one eye
Right.
and became the biggest rapper in the world at one point. What if he would have listened to people and said, man, you can't, you got one eye, you can't.
And also, so that's a great example too, because he's got a very unique voice, right?
Yes.
And he matches that with his unique look, and that's nobody else can be that. There is only
Nobody
one
else.
Fetty Wap in the whole world, and if he tried to be someone else, it
For
wouldn't have
sure.
happened. And that happens all too often, where we try to emulate somebody instead of just
Yes.
using their path as a guide. See, that's what the difference in the mentor and the hero is. The hero doesn't do it exactly the way the mentor does, right? Obi-Wan's path was a lot different than Luke Skywalker's. It's supposed to be
100%.
better. It's supposed to be different, right?
Yes.
And so when we watch those people we look up to, Mr. Beast, Keith, whomever that's performing at a level that we want to, we don't have to do it exactly the same. We find our path, but we definitely can glean wisdom from their stories.
Absolutely. It's like, cooking your favorite dish. You go to the grocery store and you find different ingredients that are made by other people.
Mm-hmm.
You bring it back and you put it together in your way, and now you serve your unique version.
Right. And when you find that thing that makes it yours, that certain spice that you use that other people don't, now you're cooking with gas, as we say here in the South.
There you go. Like this podcast, this is one of the favorite podcasts I've ever been on. You create a space for people to tell their stories. I mean, wow.
That's what I'm here to do, baby. That's it for today's show. I appreciate you being on here. I have a lunch date with my wife.
Enjoy it.
Dude, thank you so much, man. I swear I could talk to you for hours, and we're going to do it again.
Let's do it.
But it's honestly a pleasure, and I know the people are going to benefit from it. Legitimately, I'm not saying it just to like gas you up as my guest. I have benefited from it, and I absolutely am going to go look up that camera. I'll email you too.
All right, sounds good.
About it, but yeah, I'm interested in all that you have to offer, my friend.
Let me know if you need help with it when you get it. Just I'm here for it, so just reach out.
I appreciate you, brother. Have a great day.